do have quorum today. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder? We need somebody's, yeah, great. Thank you. All in favor? Motion passed. No petitions and delegations. I do want to recognize that we are on the traditional unceded territory of the Liquitok people. And can I get a motion to adopt the previous meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder? Need someone to second that too. Great. Thank you. And all in favor? That passes. Is there any business arising from the previous minutes? Not seeing any. No chair's reports. And moving on to staff reports. Number one, partnership opportunities. I think we have Robin and staff to give a presentation. You go ahead. You have 10 minutes, and then we'll ask questions.
Joy, you're hammering down 10 minutes on staff to present. Wow, that's tough.
Well, no more than 10
you're
minutes.
You're going to cut staff off. Wow, this is a good one.
And Dave's taking up your time right now.
He's hardcore there. Wow, yeah. So I just thought, just before Robin presents this, I just think this is always a good opportunity for us to share things we're doing and opportunities. There's not really any motions or anything, but I think it's good for you, to the folks at the school district, to know, what we're doing in relation to the district and how we can help and look at partnerships, because we're, really into promoting as many partnerships with local governments as we can. And so I'll steal a little bit of Robin's thunder right off the bat, but the board supported, we want to get kids active in the community as much as we can. One of the issues has been transportation. We all know, the programs. We want to start aligning our programs with the school and offering transportation. I know that it's a huge barrier. Myself, when my little boy was that age, he wanted to go into lots of programs. The school and the program were quite a distance away, and the time didn't align. So we're trying to look at ways of integrating our programs and transportations with the district, and getting kids more involved, and then seeing how that works out, taking it further and further into just making more opportunities, facilities available, and using making use of the assets that we have, and working together to get everyone into programs. So that probably concludes your entire presentation. So, and I took up maybe 3 minutes of that. Yeah, so you're on the clock.
We got 6 minutes left.
Okay, so we had some ideas on how we could build on our already strong partnership to improve sort of health and well-being in the community, and increase partnership between the school district and SRD recreation. We have thought of some, there's opportunities to expand community access and engagement to existing facilities. We do have limited space at the gardens regarding dry floor multi-purpose. And we do get a lot of pressure from the user groups for more space for them.
Thanks, Robin. So just to touch on some of the current programs that we do offer, some of them we have done for quite some time. One that Sarah, I know, is very excited about is a new grade 10 to 12 swim and water safety PE program. And it was, I think there were 80 students that applied for 24 spaces for this program from the two high schools, or I'm sorry, just Carey High School. We also have grade 3 swim lessons. You may have heard about the skating school bus program. We recently purchased our own vehicle for this program, and that is one where we pick kids up after school, bring them to the facility, and they mostly participate in our skating, but they also have the opportunity to jump into swim lessons if it aligns with the days that they're coming. One that we've done for a number of years is the Cedar School Jumpstart program. That's a grant that we received from Canadian Tire. And then we are ongoing SD 72 Tuesday, Thursday adaptive programming, swimming and skating, where students come to the facility on those 2 days a week. Another very popular high school program. This year I think we have close to 70 kids in our high school hockey academy. And the kids are both from Carey High and Timberline. And then along with all the school visits where students come to swim or skate, we've done that for years, obviously. We have a number, I think we're up to close to 30 high school students that work at the facility. So.
Some of the things that hold us back to expanding what Craig was referring to is just access to field space. Community kitchens, we do have users that do inquire about if we do have kitchen space at the garden so that they could put on, learn to cook classes. And then just multi-purpose gymnasium type space. There's lots of service providers out there. We do have industry-wide, we do have shortages of staff, but there's no shortage of entrepreneurs out there looking to provide a service, whether it's basketball instruction or pickleball. There's lots of people passionate and would love to have access to facilities to promote and engage the community.
So although we know we're already doing really great work in partnership with the schools and the school district, we've identified that there's yet more that we could be doing, and we have some ideas. So specifically, we could expand our program offerings to support school transportation. We're seeing that that's a major gap and barrier for particularly elementary schools to be able to participate in our grade 3 swim program. They're having difficulty getting to the pool. We could provide community access, and specifically we would need the help of the schools to be able to do that, to be able to access your school buildings outside of school operating hours, to use them to provide community recreation. And some of the things that we could do and that we've already had community partners seek us out for is supervised floor hockey, pickleball instruction year-round. We provide it in the summer, and there's community demand to have that year-round indoors. Basketball instruction, healthy eating and healthy cooking programs. And there are already examples in other municipalities of these reciprocal use type agreements where the community centers provide discounted or easier access to the schools in exchange for use in the schools for community programs. And some of those examples that we've been able to find so far is Saanich has a very fluid reciprocal use agreement with their recreation and school districts. And then the Capital Regional District has 2 different agreements, one in Souk and one in Salt Spring Island.
And just some things that sort of we bring to the table that, to make these ideas maybe work with the school board. We're connected to community program providers. We have branding, we have experience, registration capabilities, marketing capabilities to make sure that it's successful. The SRD has a really great insurance coverage. We have existing captive audience user groups that would love to expand from our limited dry floor in the summertime to the off season. And then transportation. We bring transportation. Last year we did acquire a 24-passenger bus that we're excited to put into good use. And then just to finish off, what are your needs? How can we help the school district achieve your goals? If you could share any of your ideas or thoughts, that would be great.
So if I can, Mr. Chair, just kind of to follow up on that is that we have I think a lot of assets and experience in terms of, there's all kinds of providers in the community that want to do things. We put out the rec guide, right? Recreation is a subsidized service in every community. It's a money loser financially, but it's good in so many terms of getting people active and so what we're looking at is there a better way for us to integrate with the school in the programs and the facility, in advertising, in getting these users. Again, just my personal experience with my boy and these third-party groups, there's always a challenge with them in terms of their marketing and their facility rentals and their insurance. And I think, okay, if we can kind of take away that, the school and the regional district have assets, we got liability insurance, we do programming. Can we assist these folks in terms of getting more programmings, getting more facilities, and finding a way if, at best we can make it cost neutral and get people using. So that's kind of our goal. We just wanted to integrate more. We're working more with the city as well in our facilities and our staff and our programming and our advertising. But there's a lot of opportunity out there, and we just want to keep, integrating and partnering more. And the school's a great partner, and their audience is a huge number of our facility users there, right? So we're just trying to find ways to create more programs, eliminate barriers, and use the assets we have. And we know, again, liability is an issue, so that's something that, we can take on as well. And again, I just know of all the little issues I hear, again, in my own little world about programming, and my mind immediately goes to, well, we can solve that, no problem. We can solve that, no problem. They're simple issues for us, and they're big challenges for program providers, and there's a lot of programs out there. So just kind of an introduction for you folks to say that, we're trying to work more and more together in partnerships and facilities and programs.
Great, thank you. Any comments, questions from school district staff or trustees?
Just wondering if the programs that you currently run in schools, are they mainly after school, on the weekends, in the evenings? When do these take place usually? And to what kind of level, elementary or?
Well, I'm not the person to speak to that, but I am the person to speak to the opportunity about that. I think if there's greater opportunity, we'll do anything, right? And I think maybe, sorry, I got to tell this story. I've told it many times, but it relates to what we're talking about. When I moved to the area 20-some years ago, I went to use the Comox pool, and it would close at 5 o'clock on Sundays. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. It kind of closed. Why is that? Dig a little deeper. Because the guy that managed it didn't like to work the evenings on Sundays. And you'd be surprised to know, Kevin may not be, but a lot of these things mature over the years for not the right reasons. So when you say when or why, well, I'm here to say that I don't know, but anything's on the table. If we can provide and knock down barriers or find good reasons why we're open to do it all the time. I mean, recreation's open when, you guys get there at 5 a.m. and you leave at 11 at night kind of deal. There's a lot of hours in there. So what we want to do is take those and create opportunity.
So we've got a few programs that happen during school hours right now. So that grade 10 to 12 Carey High school PE program, that's a PE stream that those students have selected. So that takes place during their school hours, as well as the high school hockey academy and the grade 3 swim program are all programs that regularly occur during school hours. And then we've got some after-school programming, like the skating school bus in particular. And then as far as the staff that we share, those are right after school. So they typically travel right from school to the facility and then run programs then. But what the community is looking for is evening and weekend programming. So after they finished work for the day, particularly with adult programming, that's what they're looking for.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. So we do have, of course, the number of schools that we have, but you should be aware that they are used in the evenings. We have, for the secondary schools, their sports teams typically are using them, basketball, volleyball, throughout this school year. And we do book out to community groups. So Crush Volleyball is probably our single biggest user because they would take every empty gym space that we could. Some of the scouting type opportunities. Soccer is another pretty big user. So we have a number of schools that are booked fairly regularly and fairly full. So secondary typically are for sports teams. Middle school, elementary, then end up with some community groups. So we don't have quite as much empty space as you might think. We do book them directly. Now, typically what we're looking for is we do a subsidized fee for community groups, if they're K to 12 targeted participants, it's almost a no charge, which so we'll charge application fees. So it's very low cost for them to book into those spaces. But where the cost, of course, for us comes is to have somebody there to clean and lock up. So we do usually look for reimbursement of those types of costs within the schools. Now, pre-COVID, every school was open, every school got booked. Post-COVID, we actually consolidated the number of schools to try to make sure that we had 5 schools that were full, so that we could provide extra staffing and support. Again, extra cost. So we currently do have some schools that have some empty gym space. Those typically are the schools in town that are occupied and being used during the day. So there may be some opportunities there. Of course, we do have 2 empty schools which are open and available. So there may be opportunities as kind of identifying which school buildings there are. The Oyster River, of course, is in a community in itself, which really ideally would be partnered with Black Creek side, right, for a community use. We actually are going to be setting it up as an election office for the area soon. And we do have a daycare in there as well, so it does get some use. But that would almost be just handing it over for somebody to operate, whereas the other facility opportunities are that shared, which would likely require some reciprocal agreement type setup. So there are those opportunities in town. The transportation, I do want to check on that because we have a fairly good bus fleet of like 10 buses, but they're down to the minute. Like the flexibility to be able to swing them off, to drop them off is non-existent. And to purchase additional buses for us, electric buses are $500,000. A traditional bus is half of that, which we get funded for only for replacing existing routes. So if we wanted to add something, we actually have to come up with the money to purchase the first bus. So we were fairly limited in transportation. However, the city transit system is pretty good, and we actually, our classes use those quite a bit for, like, I'm not sure if the grade 3 is maybe if they're still too young, but I know they'll do a lot of field trips on the public transit as a class. And they've asked for a few new sort of advanced warning from us because 2 classes can basically fill up a bus. So, but that's pretty effective use. So I do see some opportunities. It's just kind of identifying which schools when and how we would go about doing that. And also for those schools, like if the custodian in those schools stays until 5, but we need it till 8 or 9, again, what that extra cost is. So, but yeah, we can get some of that information. And who would we share it with?
I think Robin would be the head, and this is perfect because this is what we're looking to just fill gaps, right? Yeah. There's gaps in transportation. You know, grade 3s can't get on the public bus, and we are flexible, right? You know, this business. I think ideally, if when my boy was young, if I could have gone and picked him up at the rec center at 6 o'clock and not bothered with the school transportation, that would have been golden for me. So yeah, we know there's all kinds of groups out there that book the schools. We just want to look at filling gaps. You know, I would say we the team would look at what's available, create programs for those things, right? Like you said, everyone's playing volleyball all night. Okay, great, volleyball's taken, don't worry about that. But what space is available? Like I say to these guys at the Gardens is I want that place booked 350 days a year. That's what our goal is, right? So take any availability that we have in assets, time, transportation, fill the gaps in there, find out what's out there. The other thing I do know is that when you look at these programs, basketball for one, just because I have experience, is that we're way better at booking and organizing and advertising than they are. And I would like to integrate with those groups and say, okay, you're still going to have this basketball in all the schools, but we're going to organize it with the school and you'll be the provider. I know we can manage that better. Again, projecting personal experience onto this, but the basketball, there is just, the programs once they get on the floor are amazing. The administration and booking up there is a disaster, and we can work better with these groups, right? Even the groups that are using the school facilities. So just looking to find opportunities and fill those gaps.
If I may just add to the conversation, ST 72, of course, is very keenly aware of the importance of physical literacy. And we also really want to provide equality and equity across all of our students, and know that sometimes cost or transportation is prohibitive for a grade 2 or 3 student to attend a program at the Gardens or be involved with crush volleyball or any number of physical activities. I'm actually genuinely quite grateful that you've come to us with this conversation, because it does enhance our abilities through partnership to provide services to all children in our school district. And in the rural and remote districts, the area Ds and Cs, we know that our schools are the hubs sometimes of your communities and are often the only dry space and the only gymnasium space. We're hindered only by agreements that we already have standing with other user groups, but we're not hindered by our desire to create opportunities for children. I think that that's just joint and collaborative. Another thing mechanism that the school district have, of course, is board-approved courses. So a board-approved course is a teacher just designed course that will come to the board for approval that meets academic outcomes in the curriculum and can be based, like our fly fishing program. You'll see the kids at the Carey High field fly fishing. That's a board-approved course. So there is opportunities to be creative, create skill sets for kids that are island-specific and specific to the needs of the communities that they live in, and can be looked at as a credit course through the Ministry of Education board-approved course selections.
Well, that's really great. Thank you for sharing that, because again, that to me spells more opportunities, right, for things you can do. Interesting you say that again. Sorry, I keep going to basketball. I noticed the DIME program is offering tutoring through their is that, are you aware of that? Oh, see, this is interesting. I see that, and I was like, first of all, this is fantastic. They're getting these kids playing basketball, and then one day a week they offer tutoring. And because of my position, I'm like, where's the connection? If there's no connection to the schools, like, first of all, why not? Like, I think the idea, we'd all agree that tutoring is fantastic, right? You get these kids playing basketball, then do some math or something. But this is there's a gap they're missing. Like, how are they doing this independently? And if you're going to tutor kids, I would think align it with the school district and make sure the idea is fantastic. But that's where I think us partnering with these, we don't want to take over these things, but we want to help with the programming and administration from these folks that are doing this stuff. And I just saw that one. I was like, great idea, but if this isn't aligned with the district, like, are you tutoring the right things? Like, it's hard to say any education's bad, but there's a better way. And so I think consolidating us as partners, and really appreciate the feedback, because we know there's opportunities out there, right? So we have all the assets, we have all the tools, and we can fill gaps and do more and be a real benefit to the communities.
So I will have to make some inquiries. It is something that will go to the board to get their support. But I'll reach out to Saanich, Salt Spring, and just kind of find out how that's working, what sort of setup is, and also just kind of compare it with our actual booking piece. School needs trump everything, which potentially impacts reliability, like consistency with picking a day per week. So I got to make some inquiries about that, take it to the board, and then we might have something to return with and share it to see what can come out of it. Of course, Discovery and Oyster River are for lease and available, which is a different process than using gyms and gym space.
I'm wondering if there's any comments on the insurance side of things. So my understanding, if a group, a community group of people want to play volleyball in the gym, I know in Cortez they're getting their insurance through the community hall. Is there a way for one of the things that the staff brought up here is that our insurance could be a potential easy way for us to partner to allow user groups to be able to access these things easier. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we have always asked for it, and I don't know of anybody hasn't been able to find it. So it may be a challenge. They might be spending hours and making 20 phone calls to find it, but we, of course, only, once they have it, they come and show us a copy of their insurance, so.
So here's my thought on that. Again, knowing the tools and the assets that we have here. So I'm making some assumptions, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. You've got a basketball group and they're going to use the school, and the school says, okay, great, you can use these times, but you need insurance. So there's time and effort, but there's got to be a cost associated with, and we're covered by Municipal Insurance Authority. So let's just presume that group said, okay, this is a program, can you funnel it through your rec guide? And it'd be under an SRD program that we facilitate through the school. The program is presumably going to cost less money, and it's going to be efficient, and it's going to be covered under the insurance we already have, so we don't pay more. So I see opportunities for that kind of stuff, where groups either spend too much time and money on it, and then just gets passed on to the kids, right? And that might be a barrier for somebody joining or not.
So we do have, through the municipal insurance provider, we have for users that use our drive floor, because it's not our programming, they have to have insurance. Minor hockey, the bigger groups, they have their own insurance, but for families that want to come, we do have something set up, so it's a quick drop down, what they're doing. It's an online component. It would be easy to expand that to the schools through the insurance provider.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, questions on this? Go for it, Director Rice.
Just the only comment that I wanted to add is that I think for Area D, any use of the Oyster River School would be greatly appreciated. We have a lot of kids there, and if you could develop, programs for the evening or afternoon, even a weekend, I think those would be highly popular.
Great. Okay, moving on. Cortez Island School backup power. And just thank you to the delegation for coming in and presenting today. I really appreciate that. Any staff comments on this? Dave, do you have?
Oh, I thought this was a director's report, or?
No, this is we're still on staff reports, number 2, Cortez Island School.
We have to receive it.
Motion to receive the staff report.
Yeah, move receipt.
Seconder. Great, thank you. So it looks like there's no additional information here, just that the school district has recognized that there is a need for this, and that there is no current budget for it. That seems to be where we're sitting, as far as I can see it.
Can I ask, are there funding opportunities for this sort of thing that you've been able to get in the past? Or, because I know we've had this conversation probably going back 15 years, but I'm not sure, when we have come close, whether there was a funding grant that was available that maybe we weren't successful in, and whether we just need to keep trying.
So the regional district has a policy that we won't provide grants to other levels of senior government. So correct me if I'm wrong, there was, I think the director brought a grant need for a generator. No?
No, it wasn't a granted aid.
What was it? Was it gas tax?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how this conversation started. Was can we use gas tax funding?
Thanks. So we won't provide other levels of, the board policy is they won't provide other levels of senior government with funding for, I suppose I'm going to add some liberty here for, core operating or core operating things like a generator to provide power. So that is our policy.
May I ask, though, would the district be willing to write letters of community support if the school district were to find a funding stream that could facilitate the purchase of a generator?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think the policy, the impetus of that was that, look, the school district has their budget and they have a responsibility to provide operating capital funds. And so there's lots of power outages on Cortez, and so the lights are out and kids can't go to school, so on and so forth. The district needs to fund that, not the regional district, because that's looked at as a double dip, if you will. But if there's letter support or programs, I mean, yeah, we're happy to, the board, I'm going to speak for the board, but happy to provide letters of support. The board just doesn't want to provide that funding to the district, as it seems like that's the district's responsibility.
But would
Not just, it could be the hospital, it could be anybody.
But would the regional district be willing to share funding leads? Because you would be receiving funding leads. Our funding leads come to education specific versus kind of that emergency
services,
response.
Yeah, I would say 100%. And thank you for bringing that up too, because there is quite liberal streams of emergency funding, certainly. I mean, if you looked at some of our board reports and what our emergency coordinator gets funding for through EMBC grants, absolutely. And we would like to collaborate on those things with you. Of course, if you're doing partnerships and letters of support, and even get it on our radar, the types of things that may land under that, you'd be surprised how often we get quite significant funding for that kind of stuff. I'm always shocked when we get the letter and say, hey, you got X amount of dollars for these stream of things. Yeah, they're quite liberal with that. So absolutely, I think sharing your needs and possible opportunities with the staff, and then if we see programs or you have programs, 100%. I think we just don't want to provide that out of our tax requisition, but other than that, 100%, yeah.
Thank you so much. And I believe that that's helpful. The ESS funding may be a way to create a reliable power source on some of the outer islands, because chances are that will be a shelter space should it ever be needed.
Exactly right. And those kind of things, if they're on our radar, then when programs come up, our coordinator's happy to make those applications and get a school district letter of support saying this, because you're right, like, you need emergency centers there, right? And they need power and heat and so on and so forth. So it's not that much of a stretch in terms of like power generating and stuff like that. And there might be other things too, right? So
I'll come to you in a second. Director Rice, go ahead.
Just to expand on that, I know that I think the SRD is in a good position to actually advocate a little harder. I mean, we have the search and rescue that, they're always looking for backup power. You know, the situation that we have at Upper Campbell Lake, so there's an opportunity to advocate harder against BC Hydro and places like that. And again, there has to be grant opportunities for emergency power, whether it be generators or solar. And we've just got to find that where that is.
Yeah, I think the other thing is backup power. You know, if you can have a power wall that can hold power for basic electricity for two days, that's generally enough to cover it. A little funny side note, I introduced this idea to my 10-year-old who's in grade 6, and he's like, Dad, no! Because, power outage days are like kind of fun, exciting days to miss school. So I'm just glad that 10-year-olds can't vote. Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 3, Campbell River School District Housing and Crown Land, and we have Director Mawhinney here. Oh, did you have another comment there, Director Rice?
I'll move that. So move receipt on item 3.
Thank you. If we have a seconder. Great, thank you. And we have Director Mawhinney here to do a presentation.
So I'll just give a little bit of backup because and I sent something to Kevin, hopefully it made a little bit of sense there in terms of our resolution. And Director Mawhinney can speak to it maybe more clearly. In terms of looking, I think what we're trying to do is just look at if there's opportunities for properties that the school district, and I'm just going to say own for lack of a better term, because I know there's a number of ownership positions that the district has on properties. If there is any opportunities out there that we could look at school district land, and again, I know there's a long process if land is disposed of, but if the stars aligned, that we could look at in terms of housing opportunities in the regional district.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the committee for this opportunity to participate in this discussion. I really appreciate it. And I hope you had the chance to read the report, which was attached to the item on the agenda. One of the most costly and challenging to obtain pieces in creating an affordable or attainable housing project is acquiring land on which to build. The Discovery Islands Affordable Housing Society is a rather new society based on Quadra Island, and it was through my attendance at their meetings that I learned that School District 72 holds land, or the license over land, on properties on the Discovery Islands. So the Housing Society wrote a letter of inquiry to School District 72 regarding a 5-acre piece of land in Harriet Bay. School District 72 responded that it was not in the interests of the potential future school district needs possibly to dispose of this land to them at this time. However, I think that the regional district here, we are quite a bit different than a nascent society. We are an enduring institution. And the the SRD board this term has created a regional housing service and approved up to $10 million in borrowing. This strongly positions the Strathcona Regional District with a mandate to focus on housing. So I don't have all the facts, but from what I've gathered so far from various conversations with Ministry of Education staff and others, that a minimum preferred campus size for a school is 10 acres. And that is the size of the lot where Quadra Elementary is situated. The Harriet Bay lot, which the School District 72 holds an interest in, is 5 acres. I've also gathered that in the 80s, there was a time when Quadra Elementary School population was upwards of 300 students. And now we know that it's hovering at about a third of that, is what I've been told. So when I look at these facts together, the historic populations on the current site, the huge investment which is currently being made on the Q Cove campus with the new childcare building, and the agreeable size and location of the Kwathiaski Cove campus, it pushes me to ask how School District 72 and the Strathcona Regional District could work together to release the 5-acre Harriet Bay site for a higher calling, attainable and affordable housing on Quadra Island within walking distance of Harriet Bay services. The report attached has a motion from the board, which was endeavoring to connect two thoughts. The first, a request to the school board for a list of properties in Area B, Cortez, and C, Quadra and the Discovery Islands, which the school district holds an interest in, so that we could further this conversation. And the second thought, which was brought to the table by Director Susan Sinnott, was a question of whether the school board has an interest in developing housing on land which they own or hold an interest. So I would be really interested to hear from the School District 72 members of this committee on these two thoughts, and if there is a possibility of being involved in housing projects at the school district, or if there would be a willingness to provide a list of properties and move forward on potentially releasing something. I guess in closing, I would say that I'm sure you're all aware of the pressing and critical need for housing in urban and rural areas, and I really sincerely hope that we can find a way to work together to make a dent in housing need and improve the quality of life for residents who are underhoused.
Thank you, Director Moini.
I'll just share the correspondence that I received from Dave is gone to the board, and it'll be reviewed by the board tonight. So, and the way the request came in was for the board to provide a list of lands that they're willing to sell. So I expect that to be the conversation. So yes, that's how it was worded. So So, yeah, that conversation will occur tonight and we'll be able to respond. Now, I believe, though, that having two trustees hear this, they can share that. And so the timing is quite good to get to the rationale of. This did not go into the agenda, but perhaps knowing that this is available, the board may wish to have the trustees may wish to have the remaining, or the report go at a future board meeting to be shared, but
So just a comment on the word sell. So for lack of a better term, because I know there's a complicated potpourri of ownership that the school has. So it's not so much that they want to sell or release or release their interest in, because I think I'm aware that there's positions where the school has land tenure that if they return it, there's nothing coming their way. Like they couldn't profit from the release of those. Am I correct in that? On certain properties? Like they would go back to the province?
So I can explain it.
Yeah,
Can be a
okay.
transfer as well, yeah.
Right, so yeah, it's not so much sell, if there's a way that the school district can release, and I get that's a complicated ball of wool, depending on what the property and the position is, but release those properties back to whoever and then find its way possibly to the regional district, whether that's selling, purchasing, or an agreement with the province or whoever, so.
We totally agree that housing's a huge issue. But from a school district standpoint, we have one mandate, and our singular mandate is K-12 education for children. So this is a little bit outside of our wheelhouse as trustees because a request like this hasn't come forward before. We have discussed it. We did discuss the Affordable Housing Society letter that came from Susan in the late spring, and deeply appreciate Quadra Island's challenges. It is very complicated, and we as trustees are trying to gather a handle without taking too much time away from the education of children, of staff time, to investigate all the bits and bobs. So it will come to the meeting tonight. We'll have a really deep conversation about it to elevate our own understanding of what this looks like. Kevin's the expert, but even Kevin has there's lots of research to be done in order to really give you a real fulsome answer on kind of the position that we're in right now.
Yeah, so and I appreciate it. I know how complicated it is. And because the resolution got a little bit muddied, one of the directors thought maybe the school district was interested in creating housing. I personally highly doubted that, but it got included in there. So what the interest in is there a piece of property that the school district could, divest its interest in? Is there one? Is there two? That's really what we're interested in. I mean, there's low-hanging fruit that you could cross off the list immediately, right? That there's no chance. But is there one or two that there's a chance that we're discussing? Because I don't want you to spend a whole lot of time, like there's ones that are just obvious, right? So when you're having the discussions, we're looking for like the property on Quadra that might be potential. We know 98% of them aren't, but is there one?
And we'll willingly discuss and investigate if that's something that we can help with. But, we are thinking about children 50 years down the road too. So if the Harriet Bay side sees this huge influx of new families, we'll still need a school site potentially on that side of the island. So that is something that, is 50 years out, and I'll probably be long gone and nobody will even remember my name at that time. But it is something that we think about when we plan things like our lands, because you just don't really know where the development is going to come.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate your willingness to entertain this idea. I respect and understand that you're saying that your mandate is not really to talk about housing. I think that the school district is undertaking a 10-year plan on their lands currently. So I think that hopefully raising this or flagging this with you right now would maybe be a good time to incorporate this idea into that conversation. And a little while ago, I was in a meeting, online meeting, and Lisa Helps from BC Builds, she's the lead of BC Builds, and she said, oh, if the Crown land needs to happen to be released, come to me, we'll help. And to me, it really felt like it was much more relational and important to come and talk to the school board themselves rather than talking to the province and asking for a top-down solution. So I'm really hoping that we can work on this. And I'm just curious from your side, what you think the next steps in this process are. You're taking it to your board. Do you need me to come talk to you? Do you want me to send you another letter?
I think we should take it to the board, and I think the communication from this meeting will be helpful and important. But after that, it really kind of depends on what the direction is from the board. And I have described to you and Dave what the process is and how having the board's support will make the process a whole lot easier. So I think that's what we're doing right now, is trying to get the board support for that. So
You will get a good, we'll have a good discussion about it, but I know it will take a little bit of time, especially that we're in the midst of this, look at the properties and the 10-year plan, and so it won't happen quickly, but definitely you have our attention right now in terms of, deciding what makes sense.
That's
So
great.
thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Awesome. I love that we're talking about housing at a school district liaison committee meeting. It really shows that that the need and the struggle that communities are having to find places, especially for worker housing. And I think there's also a link to I know on Cortez we lost a teacher and his family last year because they couldn't find housing. So it's a big issue. All right, director's reports. So this is something I want to bring to the committee's attention. I'm sure school district staff are aware of the reports that schools send into the province every year. So if you look into the report addendum that I added, there's the actual. This is taken from the BC province website. And basically, at the end of September every year, as you know, schools send in a form that says we have this many kids. These are the kids that have special needs, and those numbers are used by the province and tied to the funding that school districts received. And part of my role in government and certainly on this committee is how can we figure out ways to get more funding to schools through the school district and provide more support to our students who are in these schools. The situation on Cortez, and I think a lot of rural schools, and I think we could say schools across the province, is that the number of students at the end of September isn't necessarily the numbers of students in the second semester, and that there's, especially in understaffed, or small staff schools, having an extra 10 kids in the second semester could be the jump to getting another teacher, and that if the province did a second, had these forms put in again in January, those numbers would be different. That could potentially bring in new funding for the school district and hence into the schools as well. So what I'm hoping to have a bit of discussion here on what that could look like, and I'm hoping to get a motion that we can work together and advocate to the province to change the way they do things so that's better reflective of the number of students in the school. And on Cortez, they're 5 students away from another teacher, and they're pretty confident they can get those students by the end of this semester.
Deeply appreciate your comments from a rural and remote community. It is a similar challenge in the larger urban centers, the Surreys, the Richmonds, because the cutoff is September 30th and they don't fund bums and seats after the fact. They're actually in a reverse situation where they have too many students for the facilities and the teaching staff that they have, and no way to claim those students for funding to expand spaces. It's not the reverse, it's the same. So anyway, last year at the BCSTA AGM, BC School Trustees Association, there was a motion that was approved from the floor to start the advocacy campaign with the Ministry of Education to do a mid-cycle headcount for funding for the remainder, prorated for the remainder of the year. So that advocacy work is in the process at the provincial level. But right now, education is just holding on with their fingernails, waiting to get through the election to see what happens after the fact. We're happy to bring forward another motion to BCSTA, but I believe you can access the motions actually from the AGM at BCSTA, which just kind of discusses what the motion was, who put it forward. And it is a growing concern across the province with the model itself.
That's great. I'm glad that there's a motion that's been moved forward there. I know, attending UBCM, there's hundreds of motions that get passed, and it's on the advocacy calendar to get things done. I'm wondering if there's, more power that we could bring to this issue as a partnership between the SRD and the school district to say, hey, look, this is a real issue here, and I know it's if one person, you got one squeaky wheel in this corner, you got another squeaky wheel in this corner, it gets more attention if we can work together.
Again, it is motions, so we could potentially, with conversation amongst our board, collaborate on a motion with some key information provided through the regional district to bring forward to AGM for discussion at a provincial level. And BCSTA is, of course, our spokesperson with the Ministry of Education, and they have the loudest voice. But that voice is a collaborative and a collective of the voices of individual school districts across the province.
Okay, great. So maybe it's more, we advocate to the province with your support. If you've already got your line of advocacy happening, I'll go to Director Rice.
I'm just wondering if we could expand on that. We don't know who the next MLA is going to be, but if we advocate to the Comox Valley and, all across the island and perhaps maybe get letters of support from all of them, I think that would be an easy take then to the next MLA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree. As our role in it, I think it would be supporting and advocating for it. So if we're aware of some of the issues that the district has, it's very likely that this board and other boards and councils will support that. And I think that's where you see traction happening, that we all gather together and push forward our advocacy for it. So I think it's just, again, communication when we have these liaison committee meetings. If you always keep line of sight on things that you could get support with, bring them to us, because we don't know what you guys are doing, and happy to find opportunities to support advocacy for you. So I think that gets traction. I think, like the Director Von Esch says, we have an MLA here and they all get their pressure, and the harder you squeeze, the more juice you get out of it. And so that's what gets results, right? So
so it sounds like you have your advocacy going already. The motion's been passed, moving things forward. And I think the opportunity is for us to start knocking on the door as well, and for the province to receive some advocacy from both sides. I'm wondering if there's a motion from the floor that could help direct SRD staff to start that side of things.
I would move that motion.
Oh, actually, thank you, Edith. Can I have a motion to receive the report that I just made?
We've got a motion, we just need you to vote on it.
Okay, all right. All in favor of?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks, Edith. A motion to receive the report that I just made?
So moved.
And seconder? Thank you. All in favor? Great. And now if there's a motion?
I would move that SRD staff work with the other regional districts on Vancouver Island for support on this.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? You guys are busy taking notes. Would one of you be willing to second that motion?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great, thank you. And all in favor? Against? Okay, that passes. Thank you.
I'm just curious on the same topic, because we had the Premier in Campbell last week announcing the Cedars School, if they're elected. How did that, on the similar topic, how did that find its way to the top of the list?
Just as you said, lots of squeeze gets more juice. Yeah, that's how that.
And looks like, you're squeezing is going to maybe successful. But on that, like, again, I think if the local government's aware of the pressure points that the district has, share with us, and, you know, we can help support as well.
Support is always greatly appreciated, and yeah, it came as a bit of a surprise, not a total surprise. We've been advocating for 15 years, but the timing of which was a bit of a surprise. So again, holding on with our fingertips until after election.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Do you, do you know the dollar figure associated with that, or do you have a guess?
So the concept is actually unique in BC because League Widow Family Life Services, as you know, just had recently a fire in a building that we leased to them. So it's a school district building. It's a small building, but we have to rebuild it through insurance. Probably like 20% gets rebuilt and then 80% gets refurbished. So it will be a nice looking building when it's done. But they provide a range of services from childcare to supporting families to supporting adults with challenges. And part of this proposal was to provide them space in the school district. Now, typically, you'll notice that our board's focused very strongly on K-12 education and now childcare. The Ministry of Education only funds education. So I'm not sure how that League Widow Family Life Services portion will work. But they have committed and they made that announcement on Friday. So, like the school portion, we gave them a number of $40 million just for the building. Of course, that it was prepared a number of years and has just been escalated by construction, yeah. So, but that does include the League Widow Family Life Services portion. So we'll have to go through a more detailed design and construction, provide that cost back to the ministry. I can only imagine what ministry staff's reaction to that announcement was, which it doesn't fit within any of their boxes. So we'll have to see. Exactly, yeah.
I don't think it's made us particularly popular, though, amongst our other trustee friends, but it is part of the BCSTA platform around infrastructure and capital investment around the province. They've been trying to hold both parties accountable to what they plan to do for rural and remote communities. So we just won this
Yeah,
time around.
That's great. Advanced voting is open and election soon. All right, does anybody have any new business they want to bring to the committee? Not seeing any. That brings us to the end. Can I get a motion to terminate?
So moved.
And second? Thank you. All in favor? Great. Thanks so much, everyone.
So will the